Farm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, everybody? Jon Impemba with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Farm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We got 5 games here on a Tuesday to break down with you. Sean Mitchell has the NBA DFS Playbook out already. Look forward to having you all in chat with us here today as well as we break down this 5-game main slate. James, pretty interesting day yesterday, to say the least. We had some certain disappointments there. We did not expect a Kings-Pelicans blowout to happen when the Vegas line on that one was like 1.5, 2.5 with the 235 total. We did have some exciting finishes on that slate as well, some breakout performances, and we look to move forward here as we head into the Thanksgiving Day break.
Yeah, and what a day to move into with a game that I think, at least in recent memory, is the highest we've ever seen. And not only did it open at 250 in Atlanta, Indiana, it has been bet up to 252.5. So, that's not, again, to start at 250 is one thing. To be bet up to 252.5, and even on one sports book I'm looking at, I see 253 is rarefied air. So it's definitely an interesting little 5-gamer. Some big totals, some really low, slow-paced environments, low totals, slow-paced environments in 2 of the games. So definitely a nice blend, and not a lot of injury news to talk about. There's a couple pieces we're really waiting on, one of which has been LeBron. He's played every day and maybe better than he's ever played, which is seemingly weird to say every single year, but here we are. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice blend of game environments and game flow, and 5 games is a nice little number there.
Yeah, we got the Donovan Mitchell news obviously yesterday, so that was nice to see. We're waiting on the Karis LeVert news to kind of come through here, still considered questionable. But like you said, there really isn't much else that we don't know, which is great for a 5-game slate, especially when we have 3 games starting 7:30, and then we have 9 and 10. So now, of course, we are waiting on the 10 p.m. game for that LeBron and AD news. We do expect them to play. It is a tournament game, so LeBron has been pretty vocal about the importance of the NBA tournament. So I do think a lot of these guys will suit up if they're able to go here. So should feel pretty safe when building lineups. Of course, you mentioned that high game total. You're right. It is bet up to 252.5 now. So pretty crazy. One of the higher spreads, as I said, that we've seen in a while. Now, we've seen games finish more than that. We had like a 280 game last year that I think, the Hornets were a part of. Hornets Wizards, I think it was, or something like that. So we've certainly seen some high scoring games before, but no line has ever been set. And the fact that it's a 3.5 point spread, we're looking at a close game. Raptors versus Orlando, 215.5 with a 1.5 point spread. And then a couple of big spreads here. Cleveland versus 76ers is a 7.5 spread, 218 total. Portland, Phoenix, 13.5, 223, and Jazz, Lakers, 7.5 with a 230.5 total there. So if LeVert gets ruled out, maybe we even see that spread bump up a little bit more for Philly here. But for a 5-game slate, beggars can't really be choosers when it comes to building your lineups here.
Yeah, good.
Anything else? Want to get into breaking down the slate here?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's get into it. And again, guys, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already thrown a like to the channel here in the video, please do so. If you haven't subscribed already, also, I don't know what you're waiting for there. Get your comments in the chat. We're happy to break these down for you as we move along. But let's start out position by position here, sir. Halliburton's at $10,400. Trae Young's at $91. Just kind of focusing in on this game with a 252 game total. We looked at some early rostership projections, and we were a bit surprised to see how few were in on Halliburton tonight. Many are playing Trae Young. Does that make you more inclined to play one or the other, try to fit both? How are you attacking this game here?
I mean, my view has not changed on Trae Young, despite the rostership being so high. We've seen a incredibly safe floor from him, and if the shots fall, he breaks slates, and you need him. So he's playing big minutes. He's playing more minutes than DeJounte Murray, and for whatever reason, his price is going down despite the consistency, despite the ceiling. So I I'm right in the line of thinking of why Trae Young should and will be the chalkiest play, if not this, one of the three most highest home plays this slate. Perfectly fine getting there. Obviously, pivoting to Halliburton and or playing Halliburton along with Trae Young is a viable approach. I have no issues getting to basically anybody and anything that involves Indiana Atlanta.
Right.
It's 253 implied points. The one thing about Indiana is they're highly effective offense that is run by Tyrese Halliburton. He's the most reliable piece on that team, who has gone for 70 fantasy points in multiple instances. So the ownership, to me, I guess, it is interesting to see it low. I will say I definitely think it's a positionality thing, one, because you have Trae Young getting most of the ownership for cheaper. And then when we get into like other positions, like I think small forward is awful tonight, especially on DraftKings. And that's why you're seeing LeBron rostered 20+% of the time. Right. So like you're now seeing at least 20 almost 40%, whatever it is, 30 to 40% Trae Young, 20+% LeBron. I mean, how do you fit Halliburton in that instance too? Right. So I love the low ownership on Halliburton in a dream scenario, but that's definitely where I think why the public perception on like the ownership is what it is right now.
And to your point, I mean, LeBron's been giving you basically what we've gotten out of Halliburton here lately anyways, 59-71, 59-62, down game against Memphis because there's a blowout. He played just 23 minutes. I guess that would be my worry. He did play 35 in a loss to Sacramento in a 15-point loss, but they are 7.5-point favorites here. If that game gets out of hand, LeBron maybe gets limited a bit. We're expecting a pretty crazy game for a guy in Halliburton that prior to the recent dud also gave us a 75 and a 60 fantasy point game. So should be a fun one there. Are you looking between that Devin Booker at all for you, or you just no reason to go there today?
I mean, it's one of those. I think Phoenix blanket statement. I think everyone is in the same ballpark. They're going to blow Portland out, right? Yeah. Whether Malcolm Brogdon is in or not. To do that, somebody is going to go off, or two people are going to go off. So maybe it's Devin Booker scores 60 in 3/4, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy has 70 actual in his bag, has done it before. The minutes cap seemed to be gone. I know 10 of those minutes came in 2 overtimes last time out, but still 30 minutes. And then he played 40 minutes total. If you want to get Devin Booker, fine. Phoenix is not a priority for me overall tonight.
Yeah, that's fine with me. And I'm also in agreement with you. Again, the point spread there is a little bit concerning for the spend up plays here. They're going to obviously be very contrarian there. Maxi's at $8,800. Darius Garland with no Donovan Mitchell, $7,600. D'Angelo Russell against Utah there, $67. Any interest in this mid-tier range?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Maxey is intriguing because he has a really high ceiling. Darius Garland is playing without Donovan Mitchell, and last year he was a 1.3 fantasy point per minute player without Donovan Mitchell. This year it's like 1.15, which, over a larger sample, if he gets back to 1.3 at 7,600, he's just too cheap. He's
elite, yeah.
We're talking about a guy who could approach 50 fantasy points tonight then. It's not the best environment, but 7,600, no Donovan Mitchell, maybe no Karis LeVert is too cheap. And IC3 brings up this point about the small forwards. I'm not saying that there's no viability in the mid tier, but I just objectively think the top to mid tier of small forward or point guard is better, because you have Darius Garland at $7,600 who could go for 50 given no Mitchell, possibly no LeVert. You have Jordan Clarkson in the starting lineup, point guard eligible, who's gone for 40+ in 5 straight games. You don't have those consistent mid-tier plays at small forward that are constantly getting you 40, possibly 50.
Right.
Strus is a good play with good eligibility. And
really not. Actually, I guess I can't say it isn't a large sample size. Let's say without LeVert and Mitchell, Strus not with a high usage rate, but it's only a 9-minute sample size there. Garland has a little bit more. It's a 24-minute sample size of those two guys off 1.1. fantasy points per minute. But again, there hasn't been too many instances where LeVert and Mitchell have been off the floor. To your point, if you take Mitchell off the floor there, you do see Strus there 0.89 or 0.94 fantasy points per minute there, and Garland just 0.96 points per minute. So not good. Not like a huge bump, even though Donovan Mitchell may not be on the floor there.
Yeah, and I think that was more my point. Not that I don't think the small forward has viable options. I just don't think when you're talking about like upside, I think point guard has, and that's why Halliburton is getting lower roster compared to LeBron, because LeBron at small forward has 70. Darius Garland, in theory, could go for 55 fantasy points tonight, and I don't think anyone would be like, wow, Darius Garland went for 55. He might be playing without two of their best players. So
if LeVert gets ruled in tonight, do you think that shifts some of that rostership away from LeBron, given how kind of the weakness of the position, as you put it? Obviously, he ends up being ruled in. Donovan Mitchell, maybe a bit more appeal to save some money and get LeVert, and then maybe some people get to Halliburton from that point.
Possibly. I mean, LeVert has basically said, like, if he is playing well, he has an incredibly high ceiling. If he doesn't, we've seen in 2 of his last 3 games, 26 and 17 fantasy points, right? So there is a really high ceiling on him. He's still going to come off the bench. So if you're scared of that, don't be. Like, whether or not Donovan Mitchell's in or not, I mean, he just comes off the bench. It's just,
right.
What happens. So, yeah, possibly. I mean, shooting guard, small forward eligible guy that has 50-point ceiling definitely could garner some ownership for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts as we get down to kind of the value range here? We have the Orlando guards, Dennis Schroeder, 64. You've talked up D'Anthony Melton of late. And then I've been in on Keontae George here tonight, a guy that I think could go out there for a double-double. I gave that prop out on the betting show today. Opened at plus 650. It's down to plus 600. Again, just knowing that he's in that starting lineup with 2 high-volume shooters, maybe a spot for them. Where are you looking when it comes to value guards on tonight's slate? I mean, again, we're spending up. I get it. But if you had to look for a value play, like what's your player pool maybe looking like here?
Well, no, I know. It's not so much like just because I'm spending up. It's just not like my favorite tier of plays. Like, I think D'Anthony Melton is fine. He has definitely been really solid. I mean, that Brooklyn game, I mean, he's playing mid-30s minutes in competitive games, and he went for 36 fantasy points in 27 minutes in that game. So I like Melton. I think Suggs and Anthony both have like a really wide range of minute outcomes. Like, you could see Cole Anthony play 18 minutes, you can see him play 30. You could see Jalen Suggs he played 39 minutes, I think, or 38 minutes a few games ago, and then we saw him play 27. Not the Indiana game, I'm just crossing off the board because that was just a massacre, and I know it looks like it wasn't, but it was.
Safe floor play for Jalen Suggs.
Safe floor, but the price is on the rise. It is 5,600 compared to where it was earlier in the year. I like the Keontae George play probably the most because of the Utah guys. I feel pretty good that even if this game were to get kind of out of hand, I could see him play 30 minutes. I was doing a little digging before. The Lakers are 6-1 at home this year, and I saw the spread and I'm like, it doesn't feel like the Lakers are this much better, because any LeBron minutes this year or non-LeBron minutes have been terrible for the Lakers. Utah's 1-6 on the road.
Yeah, well, they're not a good team.
They're not a good team, but so that's the only thing that worries me about this game. Feel pretty good about Keontae George playing and approaching 30+ minutes basically every night.
I just like the shot volume that we're getting out of him. Now, he's not hitting any of these shots, but for example, Agbaji played over 30 minutes, took 1 field goal attempt the other day, right? So that's one of the reasons why I keep going back to Jordan Clarkson and Lauri Markkanen, is they have a guy in the starting lineup that doesn't want to shoot, isn't looking to shoot, isn't asking to shoot. He's just standing out there and playing defense, right? And Keontae George is the guy that at least you're getting double-digit shot attempts, at least for now in this spot. Now, if he starts getting cooked or whatever, they certainly could make a pivot He still played 34 minutes in that game. Well, Talon Horton-Tucker and Colin Sexton had good games. So to your point, like they had their starting guard out there playing a bunch of minutes. Regardless, he just missed his buckets. Again, 2 games at 11 assists, 2 games at 15 actual scoring. You combine one of those one time, we're looking at 40 plus fantasy points here at $5,500. Faisal mentioning that none of those forwards can be worse than Sam Hauser. I think we've officially come to the determination that unless Sam Hauser's coming off the bench, we're not going to play him anymore. He can only shoot and make shots when he's coming off the bench there. I would agree with you there. So I like that. A lot of people I've heard around the industry today talking about Bruce Brown. The minutes have been pretty safe for him here. He never really wows you. He's kind of like Josh Hart, like he'll go out there and he'll score a little, some rebounds, some assists, maybe some defensive stats. But now you plug this into a 252.5 game, and maybe these 26 and 25 fantasy point games are 35, or 33, just for the sake of the amount of possessions that they should be seeing here. So a lot of people seem to be liking Bruce Brown tonight, another guy with the GOAT position eligibility there, the guard forward.
I think, after Halliburton, it has to be Brown. Like the answer to this question is probably Bruce Brown, but is he the safest in terms of a minute floor?
Feels that way.
On Indiana, because like I would say Miles Turner, but Miles Turner's just starting the games with 2 fouls at this point. Other than that, the wings, forget it. Like it's just take a
Neesmith,
name out of a hat.
Toppin, Hield, Matherin. It could be any of them, right?
Yeah, and none of them would surprise me to be in like winning lineups tonight. It's just getting the correct one is impossible. Bruce Brown does feel pretty safe when it comes to minutes, and I do think like that is in part why, like, all right, I need to play somebody from Indiana, and the field's not getting to Halliburton, so Bruce Brown, 0.8 fantasy point per minute. Can't you like see a scenario where like, all right, well, he's 0.8 regularly, but in a 255 game total, like maybe he's a 0.9 to a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. So I agree with your.
And they kind of need him on the floor. Again, he's a decent defender.
Yes.
DeJounte Murray and Trae Young are out there. Like he's going to have to guard one of those guys for a lot of this game here tonight. So I'm with you. And I'm kind of with the field here as well. We've done a couple of builds, and we'll talk about, shooting guard here in a moment. Because there are some other guys I think that you could throw some tournament darts on. But if you're building one lineup tonight and you're looking to build a cash game lineup here tonight, I think Bruce Brown has to be locked into those lineups this evening. Going down a little bit further here, you have Eric Gordon at $5,200. Again, I know the price is coming up, and he's coming off of a ceiling game, and the blowout nature of this one maybe is keeping some people off of it. But he's been pretty consistent with his production. So if he hits a couple of those threes, knocks them down, maybe he returns the 5X. But again, feels like it could be just Colin Sexton night where starved for value, came through again for fantasy managers who like to have that "what have you done for me lately" mentality. When he was chalk, he worked. So people see him on a slate again, and they just hit the button. They're like, "Oh, you worked for me last time; it'll work for me again."
So I'm going to say this. Looking at ownership tonight, and we'll do what we did yesterday, John. Maybe we'll flash some ownership at the end of the stream as well. Colin Sexton is checking in 2x less than Talon Horton-Tucker. And I feel like you and I talked about this on last night's stream or this morning's stream. It feels like, do you smell that? A little fishy. That Talon Horton-Tucker is the 30% of the field is chasing Talon Horton-Tucker's last game because he has not been that good off the bench. He was good at times in the starting lineup. Like we were touting him like he had a 20 shot game in the starting lineup earlier in the year, which is great. But like, look at the games prior to this blow up. Yeah. I personally would rather go to Sexton at, again, half the ownership. We know Sexton's going to play about 20 minutes. He has about a 29-minute ceiling, I would say. We saw it a couple games ago. And when you look at Colin Sexton the last few games, I mean, he had a 28% usage rate in that last game against Phoenix, which is really good coming off the bench. And, we talk about it a lot. Like, he's coming off the bench, and he's playing with, Talon Horton-Tucker, but he's also playing with, like, Kelly O, who's a really good passing big. And then nobody else. Like it's Colin Sexton. It's the Colin Sexton show with the second unit. So you look at his numbers this year. I mean, he's really big plus minus. I mean, he's been in the green 4 straight games for Utah. It just makes you wonder, like, man, Utah needs to get this guy on the floor. He was a 25-point scorer at one point or another.
He got hurt,
Cleveland,
got traded, and then they're like, oh, you'll just be our 6th man. Like that's basically what happened here with him.
He has a higher usage rate this year, and I know it's obviously a smaller sample than Lauri Markkanen, who's their best player. So, just for context, what Colin Sexton is coming off the bench, he has a higher usage rate than their best player. So, I would rather play Sexton than Horton Tucker tonight. Feels a little fishy to me that people are getting to Horton Tucker. That feels a little narrative-y to me, John. A little people chasing the narrative, maybe the position eligibility, but I would rather go to Sexton than Horton Tucker.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, Colin Sexton this year, when on the floor, 25% usage rate, averaging a fantasy point per minute. Like you mentioned, only Jordan Clarkson has a higher usage rate there, 29.5. We'll talk about him in a moment as well. So, again, smaller slate, just looking for some tournament upside here. I think Colin Sexton at his price point makes a lot of sense. If Caris LeVert gets ruled out, how much Craig Porter do we see now move into lineups?
Oof, this is a tricky one, isn't it? Because we talked it through on the show, and he played not a lot of first half minutes, and then all of the blowout run essentially in the second half. And he was really productive, and that's something that you pointed out. Like, maybe he's earned the playing time. Like, he should get a few more minutes. It's just, it feels gross, but he's cheap. Yeah. So 18 fantasy points to get 5x when you already alluded to it. We don't have a lot of value.
I would only play him if Caris LeVert got ruled.
Yeah, it's agreed.
Feel like that may need to be said for some. If Caris LeVert is in, I'm not playing Porter. If he is out, I think that if you're making multiple lineups here tonight, you certainly can sprinkle him into one. I'm not making it. If I'm solo lineupping, I probably don't get to Craig Porter unless he's starting. We got a starting lineup announcement and Porter's in there, then that changes things. But if he's coming off of the bench here, I probably don't get to him at $3,800.
Yeah, and that's baked into the ownership too. 0.5% of the field getting to Craig Porter right now, and obviously that's pre-news, but still, I would say I would probably be underweight on the field on Craig Porter, even if LeVert was out.
Okay. If Nembhard gets ruled out, are you in on TJ McConnell?
Maybe in Torrent. Hey man, this game, right? He's a really good fantasy producer. So he'll be the clear backup. He played a few minutes with Halliburton in their last game, so I think there's a possibility we can land on some McConnell.
If you're multi, you guys remember TJ McConnell used to be a guy that would just rack up steals. He was a big defensive guy.
Yeah.
If he gets some extra playing time there in a game with a 252 total, I mean, we talk about all the offense, but if that many points are being scored, there's a good chance some of these guys get in foul trouble, right? Just the amount of defense that has to be played.
Oh, please don't say that. Not in a game with Miles Turner. Not a game that Miles Turner exists in, John.
The Bigs may be in trouble. That's true. Oh, no. All right, let's move on over to shooting guard here. Again, we've discussed Booker already. DeJounte Murray. I said on the show this morning that I thought DeJounte Murray may have been the higher roster play. That was before knowing what the ownership was coming in on. It's not the case. No one's playing. Nobody's playing DeJounte. No one's playing Halliburton. It kind of makes it more appealing to do a Halliburton DeJounte Murray 2-man here. If we're looking at a single digit and a low double digit rostership on a guy. Now again, the last 2 games for DeJounte have not been great. Tough game against Philly. They played 35 minutes in. But prior to that, I mean, I think this was the no Trey game, the 60.5. But got to run a 40-plus fantasy point game. So we keep saying it, and we're going to keep saying it. A 252 game total, you have to elevate what the ceiling is going to be on some of these guys and raise the floor on them as well. So, if we were looking at a 10% DeJounte Murray and a 10% Tyrese Halliburton and a 252 total, wouldn't you rather just give them a shot, and see if they can outscore Trey?
I mean, I completely think that is the correct tournament strategy for sure. I'm having a hard time getting off Trey today personally, and it's not just because I play Trey every slate. I just think that there's been this his price is decreasing despite hitting and surpassing or putting 5x every single slate while he's missing every shot, and he's just too good to miss every shot continuously. So
I agree.
That's where I'm getting hung up with the DeJounte versus Trey thing. But I'm not gonna dispute what you just said. He's gone for 60 twice this year, and he's 8K. He's obviously saves you money. He's better eligibility than Trey Young, and he's significantly less owned. So yeah, I think your point in tournaments is very valid. I think why the field is getting to Trey over DeJounte is also very valid. Like, just given what Trey is doing while missing every shot he takes.
Yeah, again, and the free throws for me, I think, are traumatic. Like, we have not seen Trey Young take free throws like this before. So in the past, we were seeing such low floors on Trey because he was only shooting, and if he was missing the shots, he wasn't scoring at all. Now he's missing shots, but getting to the free throw line 10, 11 times, and it's making up for the poor shooting and giving him a pretty safe floor. So listen, I'm still with you. I'm trying to jam in both Halliburton and Trey Young into my lineups. And I've showed you a couple of things that I've worked on that have that in there. But if you needed the $1,100 tonight because you're not comfortable with some of the value plays we're going to talk about on this slate, like going to DeJounte Murray, that's a guy that has that upside. So certainly fine going there. The Malcolm Brogdon thing is interesting to me because he's coming off the hamstring injury and he's been hurt, in his career. So I wonder how willing they'd be willing to play him in some of these games. But, they moved him into the starting lineup and he played, 44 and 39 minutes right away. I mean, we've talked a lot about Portland, like even in blowouts, like Shaedon Sharp's playing 45 minutes. If they lose the Phoenix by 20 tonight, like does Brogdon just stay on the floor, or are you worried about the hammy? This guy that
he is the first guy off.
Yeah.
With the trade equity attached to his name that they need. He is first one off the floor.
Because I mean, we finally saw Shaedon actually take a seat, the first time all season in a blowout that he hasn't played the full run there. Clarkson again, still poor shooting night the other night against Phoenix, double OT game, went 8 of 23 here, but still gave you 40 fantasy points to eventually get you there. The assists have been nice. The scoring's been ridiculous since in that starting lineup. I definitely don't mind the $7,300, just knowing the volume we're going to see out of him on the offensive end.
Yeah, and no one's playing him. If they keep this game close, like Jordan Clarkson's a big reason as to why. So no problem getting to Jordan Clarkson, who is, obviously not afraid to play in LA since he played there for his home games for quite a while.
Agreed. And you mentioned nobody's playing them because, as we talked, a lot of people are playing Talon Horton-Tucker at shooting guard here tonight. And we discussed that a little bit already here. But other guys in that mid-tier range, we talked Caris LeVert at $6,800. Max Struss is $6,200. I mentioned earlier that I would rather play Max Struss here today. Now, they both have the dual eligibility. When we go to small forward, everybody's playing Franz Wagner tonight. I think just for the lack of ownership here, Struss in the single digits. If LeVert gets ruled out, I think there's some really good opportunities here for him to have a pretty good game as a second scorer here.
Yeah, I mean, he's been super steady for Cleveland. Like, we saw a ceiling right off the bat. They were down a bunch of guys, and their C squad just balled out. Him, LeVert, Mobley, and since then we haven't really gotten the ceiling, but we've gotten really solid games out of Max Strus, and he's doing exactly what he was asked to do. Over his last 5 games, he's shooting 42% from 3. Like, that's what he was not just brought in to do, but he is a very good shooter that can space the floor. So if his shot is falling, he's hard to stop. He doesn't stop moving. If you ever watch Cleveland, it's just insane. He has really good cardio, and that's why you're seeing him play 37, 38 minutes. He's just running around like a psycho all the time. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine getting Strus. Great eligibility as well. I definitely agree. I prefer LeVert to be out to get to 6,200 Strus, because I think, especially at shooting guard, I think you've been bringing up an interesting point all day about Ben Mathurin. I'm just taking shots, I think, at shooting guard, another position that I'm not thrilled with. But Mathurin is one of those guys who may play 40 minutes and he may play 18 minutes, but if the shot's falling early, Rick Carlisle does stay with him, and he has a massive ceiling.
I just go to these games as the reason of if you're on a 5-game slate, if you're playing tournaments here, he obviously can't be considered a core play because he's playing a lot more games of 24 minutes than he is playing 38 and 36. I don't recall. Was anybody out during these games last? Did the Halliburton sit in those games? Do we know? Or wasn't there a game or two where he missed?
Not the Milwaukee. He played in the Milwaukee game because he had 70 or he had like 30 in that game. And I think the Utah game, Halliburton played in both those games.
Okay, yeah, Mathurin started. He just played all the minutes. Kind of because he got hot, right? He got hot and he stayed on the floor. So this is what we're saying. If he hits the buckets, he'll stay on the floor. He has popped for 43 and 49 fantasy points. Almost 10x here, 9x here. Yeah, again, if I'm making one lineup, he's probably not in it. If I'm making three, one of them is going to have Ben Mathurin in it for me, just in case. I mean, he had 28 fantasy points in 25 minutes before he fouled out. Right? Like, maybe he would have played more in that game had he not fouled out. So, I think there's some tournament play there.
Yeah, I think he's a great tournament play for sure.
Anybody else here at shooting guard?
Probably not. I mean, I guess there is a case to be made for like Gary Harris, who played another 22 minutes last time out. He was good again. They're starting Anthony Black. We don't know. Again, we never know what the Cole Anthony minutes are going to look like on a night-to-night basis. If Black is just like in that going to start the game but barely play any minutes, and Orlando goes to Harris, maybe, but it's like doesn't feel like a priority. Rather just play Sexton for a couple $100 more. And I don't think there's much else of anything down here.
Sure. Small forward position here. Again, we got LBJ. We're definitely not opposed to playing him. The field is playing him here tonight. He's $900. He's playing a bunch of minutes. He's doing everything that LeBron James.
No, he's on a minutes limit.
Yeah, 40 and 35 and 35 and then 30.
He's capped. He's capped on depending on.
He's capped when they win by 30. Which could happen tonight, I guess.
Yeah,
certainly could happen. There's 7.5-point home favorites here, but a lot of people are playing him, and for obvious reasons. 71, 59, 62, 59 down here. So some big time production over the last 5 games for LeBron on a small slate. Has that same ceiling that you generally pay up for. So people are taking the discount. The next group here again gets a little interesting. You have Scotty Barnes at 89, Lauri Markkanen at 84, and then again a lot of people are playing Franz Wagner tonight. Do you find yourself at all in this Toronto-Orlando matchup? We haven't really, talked too much about them. We haven't really liked it. It is a close spread. It's only a 1.5-point game, despite the 215 total or whatever it is.
Orlando's really good defensively. They're tied with Minnesota for the number 1 rated defense in basketball now. And they also play really slow. So, like, slow-paced team, really good defense, not exactly a team I want to target. So, no from the Toronto side. I guess there's a case to be made on the Orlando side because Toronto is not, like, just a great team. At times they get shellacked. Like, they do rate out okay defensively. They're 9th in the league. But they're slower. They're even slower than the Magic. Like, it just – I get it because Franz now has multi-position knowledge. No, he's only small forward. It's such a weird I feel like you don't see that often. Like,
it feels just like people looking for a safe floor play tonight.
Yep. Well, because, again, you're talking about and I think this brings me back to what IC3 said. Look at the rest of the position after LeBron. Like, Barnes is in a brutal matchup overall, and he's not priced. I mean, we have 45 fantasy points essentially for 5x.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen has a ceiling, also has a floor for a guy priced over 8K. Shaedon Sharpe, obviously we've seen he has a 10 turnover game. He got benched in a blowout last time out. Tobias is safe, but he's 7K. Nobody was playing Tobias Harris when he was 6K. Now people are not going to play him at 7K. We don't know if LeVert's playing, and it's not like Philly's a great matchup. Strus, you mentioned, is a solid play.
Yeah, I just like him because he's at 5%, where Franz is like, what is it, 25?
Yeah, it's high. It's high. He's the 4th highest rostered player at nearly 28%, which is, again, is crazy. And then, like, even Austin Reeves coming off the bench, the Lakers rotation outside of LeBron, AD, Like Cam Reddish is really hard to figure out because they haven't been closing with D'Angelo Russell, but
it does feel a little encouraging that when LeBron sat, we did get 29 minutes out of Reeves in that blowout.
Sure.
So maybe he gets on the floor if it blows out, and even if it stays competitive, we can probably count on 25 or so minutes out of him. I definitely think Reeves is in a conversation tonight for sure.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't. I guess my point was like, I'm not saying I wouldn't play any of these guys, but Franz, back to the original point, like Franz is the safest in terms of minutes of all those guys.
Yeah.
And like, he's not 7K like Tobias Harris, and he's not coming off the bench like Austin Reeves in like a weird rotation like the Lakers. Like Franz is just going to start, play 35 minutes, be a very active member of their team.
Sometimes.
Right. It's just weird to see a guy with one position eligibility be like stand out the most in ownership when he's surrounded by like everyone else at small forward has multi-position eligibility.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Franz is, again, the matchup with Toronto, look at their wings. I mean, Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby are really good defenders, right? Yeah. I mean, Siakam's okay, but he'll probably be on Banchero but, one of those two guys are going to be on Franz Wagner here, and I just worry that takes him out a little bit, which is why I said I'd rather take the 5% Strus, who's given you like a similar floor, right? Sure. And we've seen the ceiling, so I'll take the difference. If you want to get some money on Reeves, like I'm good there. Bojan feels too expensive, but again, this game total, you just have to, everybody has to be in consideration.
If he makes shots, he has a high ceiling. That's right. If he makes like all his shots, we might get like 30 minutes from him, and then someone else is iced out of their rotation, kind of like we saw DeAndre Hunter last game. But I mean,
I called him Bojan. It's Bogdan.
You did call him Bojan. I was just gonna letting it slide.
It was breaking my brain. I was like, I think I said the wrong name.
We were not gonna. We will not let the. We will. Not
I owned up to it this time.
Austin Rivers. We will not let the Austin Rivers one slide. We will let the. But you did call him Austin Reeves this time, so we didn't even need to break out the Austin Rivers.
Yeah, I fixed myself.
You nailed it. I think. How about this? Let's just rank Atlanta wings, Sean. I know 2 of them are power forward, 2 of them are small forward. How would you rank Bogdanović, Hunter, Johnson, Bey, knowing what we know? We know ownership is not headed towards Saddiq Bey, which I find interesting. DeAndre Hunter has a low floor, but Bogdan's expensive. Like, how would you?
I mean, I'm still surprised on the Bey ownership here.
Same.
I think maybe, again, he's being hurt by the single position eligibility. I think could be the case for him, but I like the price comparatively to the other guys there. I think I would probably put Bey
number 1.
Probably number 1. I mean, Johnson's obviously in a great spot, but you have to just trust that they'll let him be out there. I mean, for the most part, he has been, but there's one game where he wasn't. Randomly, they just benched him due to poor defense. And if this is a game where everybody's scoring, like, do they just be like, you're not holding up your end of the bargain defensively? And if he starts getting cooked by like Aaron Nesmith, like, does he, like, how long is he out there for?
I would I think per dollar, I think Saddiq Bey is my favorite of the 4. I think DeAndre Hunter is my least favorite, who is higher. He's more expensive than Bey and is expected to be higher rostered than Saddiq Bey.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Johnson probably second, Bogdan third. No one's really playing Bogdan for what it's worth. So
yeah, I mean, again, he's $5,600, so I think that's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we've seen Bogdan come out and cook in 29, 27 minutes off the bench. So I definitely think, again, in tournaments, if you're looking to get exposure, you're looking to be different. He can certainly pop. Again, we have Bruce Brown down here that we've discussed. I think Buddy Hield's probably the one I wouldn't play of this group. Again, just the minutes floor for him is much lower than the other guys, it seems like.
He's definitely hitting 7 threes tonight because nobody's playing him.
Probably true. Nesmith, again, randomly played 30 minutes here, had 32 fantasy points. Everything else, he's just kind of splitting time with Toppin.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, I can't say it's a bad tournament play because he has a ceiling at 4,400, right? In a monster game environment.
Taco Corp says he's considering Cam Reddish. You mentioned him on the show this morning. The minutes are there. Can he give you the steals? Can he give you enough production to pay off $4,800?
We need the shots. 4 and 9 shots last. He played 39 minutes and took 9 shots. He played 31 minutes and took 4 shots. We need the game in Sacramento, 32 minutes, 14 shots. We need the 10 shots in Portland. Like, we need Cam Reddish to shoot, to have like feel like a want to play him at 4,800. Like, that's not 4,200 that we were paying a couple weeks ago. So I think it's last piece in type of filler.
Sure. Anybody else?
Niang in tournaments.
Sure.
That's I think there's probably a higher ceiling in terms of minutes if that game doesn't blow out in Denver.
Would they start him at the 3?
Well, they don't. No, because they don't start
They
LeVert anyway.
They start Wade.
Yeah, they're team reporter is definitely getting the start.
Okay. You play Dean Wade?
Let's see if the field is playing D Wade. I will not be playing Dean Wade. Dean Wade is 3%. I'm good. There.
Okay. Power forward. Durant's 10K. We talked about James marketing. You have Siakam, Banchero up against each other at 82, 78. You have Mobley here at 77. Again, I didn't really find myself looking to spend up at power forward. I was plugging Sadiq Bey in.
Yep.
Stephen Lee only I was, though, because again, the rush is pretty low on him here. Where do we find ourselves looking at power forward here tonight? Are people playing LeBron at power forward, you think?
Dual position eligibility. Yeah, I mean you can see LeBron at power forward. I think Siakam is the one Raptor I would get to. I just think the price is too low. I would consider Mobley. Like it feels like Evan Mobley should be doing more, and then you look at his numbers and you're like, oh, 40, 40, 49 fantasy points the last 3 games with double-doubles in 4 straight games. And
right.
like he's just being really good, but like he's not popping, right? You're like, well, Evan Mobley 77, I need the pop game. Well, if he does give you 49 fantasy points at 7,700, like you feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Mobley if LeVert's out. I think there's obviously more.
He's giving you like a tip over 5x, 6x there is like 46 fantasy points, something like that. So, yeah, he's fine. The field is getting to Jalen Johnson as we alluded to. LeBron's the second highest roster power forward. Jalen Johnson, again, the minutes have been good except for this random Miami game where he played 22 minutes. Double coming off of that game there, 252 total. It's where people are going today.
Yeah, I mean it's a really good play. I cannot fault you for if you end up on Jalen Johnson. I also think kind of what you brought up. It's not a sexy position tonight. There's not a lot of guys that we're looking to play. I would go back to the John Collins well for $300 more at $6,400. Like there's definite foul risk because he's starting at center and he's going to be playing up against Anthony Davis, but he's been super good, and in one of these games, he even fouled out, played 35 minutes against Phoenix, 15 and 14. He's now gone for 3 straight double-doubles. We know Collins can space the floor. He's made multiple threes in 3 of 4 games. We know he can block shots. He has multiple blocks in 3 of 4 games. Mm-hmm. And he's still just 6,400 with multi-position eligibility. If you think that game can stay competitive, I mean, John Collins is playing big minutes since this new lineup got unveiled and since Walker Kessler's been out. So yeah, I think Jalen Johnson is the priority power forward play for me, but I'm definitely not opposed to pivoting to John Collins.
All right, yeah, for sure. Tyler Corp saying he loves some Jalen. Rob wants to know Eric Gordon value. Again, I think Gordon's okay for value tonight. It's a 12-point spread or whatever, so he would be a guy that certainly would get hit with the sit. With the bench there if that game blows out. But I like this great prop tonight. So.
Why'd you correct yourself? That was a bar. Hit with the sit.
Yeah.
And then you tried to correct it like you weren't dropping the hottest album.
I wasn't trying to. We talked again, some of the other Laker bench guys. I mean, Hachimura's played some minutes here. Had a good game against Memphis in that blowout. Tournament dart throw for me with Hachimura would be a guy that probably plays, I would imagine. In those games there, so I don't mind them. Mo Wagner, again, we're not loving this game, but these are some of the guys we don't mind. I don't think at the value tier at least, right? Yeah. Him and John Isaac. I think both of those guys could just be tournament plays here tonight. Wagner down here, 4,600, playing his 20+ minutes, giving you 20+ fantasy points. John Isaac played 20 minutes against Chicago, Played only 14 minutes against the Pacers, but that was a blowout game where none of the starters finished that game, where John Isaac has been finishing games for the Magic.
Yep.
So you probably would have assumed he would have been in that 17 to 20-minute range again had he closed that game out like most times they do when they're in competitive spots here. 35 fantasy points in 20 minutes, 20 fantasy points in 17, 25 and 17, 25 and 16. Basically, if he's playing 17 to 20 minutes, he's giving you 20 plus fantasy points. I don't mind getting to some John Isaac tonight if you think that game stays competitive.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to guarantee it, if you had like a Magic 8 ball and it told you that John Isaac was playing 20 minutes, I'd play him.
I think he is. I think he's going to play 17 to 20. I think that's where they keep him now. He's going to close the game.
Yep.
As long as this is a competitive game, though, obviously. If it's not a competitive game, we know that they're not going to sit him out there. But if he's out there to close the game with the starters, then I think you're going to see Isaac on the floor. He's just too productive for them, given the wings, and they don't mind playing him at the 5. So that helps his case as well. They don't finish with Goga. They don't finish with Wagner. It's John Isaac out there stretching the floor. So I like that. And then Jabari Walker is always a guy that I talk about as well. Another guy that plays 20 plus minutes will give you 20 plus fantasy points more times than he won't. Did have that Lakers game where he played just 18 minutes, 7 and 5, didn't give any blocks or steals, only played the 18 minutes. You didn't get the true upside of him, but for the most part this season, when he's played 20 minutes or so, he's been giving you close to 20 fantasy points. So on a 5-game slate, few guys at 3,900 can give you that.
Yeah, I mean, is he the best on sub 4K play in the slate?
I don't know. People could get the Wade maybe, but I don't see it as a must play. You've mentioned Boucher a few times, another guy that in his 20 minutes can give you the 20 plus fantasy points we talk about liking there. So could see some people to get there. I wish we could go back and see what the Wade rostership was the other day when he started, if anybody actually played him. On a 5-game slate, you might see more people play him as value because it's a smaller slate and there's less value options.
I pray to everything upstairs that if Karis LeVert is ruled out, I pray that Dean Wade is chalky. I really do. You'll never see me fade.
I don't even need him
so
chalk,
fast.
but if he was like 20+%,
dude,
I would happily fade that.
Dude, I will smash my keys so fast, be like, please, John, send me your lineup and tell me Dean Wade's not in it.
I would.
Please.
Our guy I see through you here wants to know KBD thoughts.
I would rather probably just play Jabari Walker.
Okay.
At the same price, but he's going to be in the rotation. He's probably going to, let's see, minutes in blowouts. Phoenix hasn't been like any blowouts this year.
I know.
And the minutes that he's played got a big run. It's been because he started. So filler, but I would rather play Jabari Walker in that case.
Sure. Moving on over to center here. JoJo's 11-2. Not many people playing JoJo tonight.
Nobody.
Is that a mistake?
I mean, it always could be. Dude, he has had some insane games in not a lot of minutes. I mean, his biggest games, I feel like this year, the Brooklyn game, he's 1 assist shy of a triple-double in 31 minutes. You have to assume he gets 6 to 7 more minutes of a shift, right? He had the 80-point game in 30 minutes. He had a 75-point game. 80-point game in 29 minutes. He had a 75-point game where he had 48 and 11 and 6 in 31 minutes. What if he does those games in 37 minutes? We haven't seen that yet this year. So, of course, there's a massive ceiling. It's not that this spot isn't great, but he's the league MVP. Like, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be great. He's, he is the hub. He is the funnel. Everything runs through Joel Embiid. If he goes for 100 fantasy points, it's like, oh, right, that guy.
Wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Right.
AD at 97. Phil, again, if you want to get there, you can. You're worried about the blowout, obviously, but he's been pretty productive overall this year. Good price tag, under 10K. But we talked about, again, on the show this morning, it's hoping to get Miles Turner right. Or we're playing, Capella, Agankwu, or even Jalen Smith people are getting to here this evening.
Yeah, I definitely think like the point you made about AD is interesting because he's obviously a good fantasy producer, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. He's second in usage, second in fantasy points per minute on the team. Obviously, the pivot from LeBron, because LeBron's getting all that ownership, pivot to a sub 10% Anthony Davis makes a lot of sense in tournaments. But then you're probably not playing Capella or Nkonkwo or Miles Turner. And John, another pacer that nobody is playing is Miles Turner. I mean, nobody's going to Miles Turner, and I understand the trepidation with not going to Miles Turner, but he has a crazy ceiling if he can just stay out of foul trouble. He just needs to stay out of foul trouble.
And like Capella isn't a guy that should put him in foul trouble because Capella is not like a great offensive player. But I mean, Miles Turner just doesn't care sometimes.
Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, that is definitely the key there. Like sometimes it doesn't matter. So Miles, like do you think it'd be better off if like they did just start Miles Turner off with a foul? Like if he was just like they were just like, all right, Miles, you're starting.
Place you don't get two, yeah.
Like I don't like. But he has a crazy ceiling. And if no one's going to play him in a 250 total, I have like in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, listen, though, he opened the season with 340 plus games in 5, Yeah. So, I mean, he hasn't had one since, but this is a different animal. He's had some really tough spots. Orlando, Philly, Milwaukee. I mean, not like the most fruitful matchups here, of late. So, I again, 252.5 total. It can't be overlooked. Taco Core wants to know, he's looking at Allen or Capella. We definitely don't mind Clint Capella here tonight. It could be a guy that gets more minutes than we're used to him seeing. He is productive. Same thing. Blocks and steals are nice. Can give you the double-double potential there. I don't really want to play Jared Allen going up against Joel Embiid, though. Again, they're a 7.5-point underdog in this game. They're on the road. He's going up against Embiid. Doesn't feel like a good spot. I'd rather just save the extra $200, $300 and play Clint Capella in a way better game.
Yeah, I agree. Allen feels he's going to play 30 minutes, probably going to get you around 30 fantasy points, but there obviously could potentially be foul trouble in this game as well. It just feels like a no-brainer. If that's the decision you're making, why not just go to Capella? I know he's like obviously much higher rostered, but Jared Allen's still, like, from what I'm seeing, like getting ownership, 18%. So
right.
I would rather just play Capella in that case too. I don't hate Jared Allen. Feels good for like cash games, John. Like 30 minutes, 30 fantasy points, that wouldn't surprise me. But is in a tournament, and I know Taco from all those the MLB wins that he's hit from the Discord. I know he is not playing cash games. I'll tell you that.
It's truth. So again, we go down here a little bit lower than Capella. Again, Olynyk in tournaments. Nkonkwo is getting some love here at 47. We've talked Mo Wagner already. Jalen Smith's the other tournament play here. We've seen what his floor is, super low. We've seen what his ceiling is, super high. If you think that there's going to be some foul trouble for Miles Turner, then we could get more playing time for Jalen Smith, who could also just immediately come in and get in foul trouble. So
Isaiah Jackson night, John. You heard it here first. Isaiah Jackson night.
I mean, anything is possible here, but Jalen Smith tonight. Let's see, where's he coming in? Third. Oh, that's Jalen Johnson. I was like, Jalen Johnson. Is Jalen Smith even getting any love here? Hold on, let's see.
And I'm in the process of updating too.
Okay.
So we will have we'll have a look at some updated ownership very shortly.
Okay. Jalen Smith, I see at 10% tonight. So people are willing to take the dart on Jalen Smith here.
Well, like we've talked about, Miles Turner just not being able to stay out of foul trouble just directly correlates to Jalen Smith and potential ceiling. I mean, he had the 12-minute game where he had 26 fantasy points. Like it's
12 and 20. 26 and 13.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, few people have that ceiling at 4,200 on the slate. So definitely, hopefully, last time we talked Jalen Smith up, he was late scratched. Hopefully, we don't get one of those.
I just can't believe nobody's playing the Pacers tonight. Like,
no. What are your thoughts? Like, since we're basically wrapped here,
like everybody's decided that they're going all in on the Atlanta side of that game. So
right. Why? What do you think is the reason here?
Consistency and rotation, I think.
It has to be, right? Because you don't know other than Halliburton.
And
who's
Bruce
playing
Brown.
and Bruce Brown. You don't.
That's it. And
You
Bruce
don't know
Brown's
who-
getting the most rostership of that group, and Halliburton's the second most expensive player on the slate, so no one's getting him. So
I wish there was like a better. I wish Rick Carlisle was not the head coach of the Indiana
yeah, I
Pacers.
mean, we've been tortured by him forever, going all the
He
way back.
Just got extended, by the way. Just throwing
Yeah.
that out there. It was just extended, so that's never gonna end.
All right, let's build an example lineup for our folks here. How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right, you're in on Trey, so we know that much.
And Sadiq. Those would probably be my first two plugs on the slate.
Trey and Bay.
Trey and Bay. Nice, dude.
Do we go Bruce Brown then?
What's the rap album gonna be called?
I don't know.
When you eventually drop it.
Bruce Brown at small forward. Is that where we're at?
Yep.
Clarkson maybe at shooting guard.
Yep. And if you need to save and you want to play Utah, you just play Sexton.
So yeah, well, I guess we can wait. Well, let's go Sexton first and see where we're at with money here. Center Turner.
Yep.
All right, $6,400 for a guard, forward, and a util. We didn't really. I mean, are you worried about Garland if there's nobody else playing with him? Like if LeVert gets pulled out?
No. I think Garland's a great play. I think Garland's a great play whether LeVert plays or not. There's no Donovan Mitchell does a lot for Darius Garland.
So I mean, if we do Garland here, we could always spend down. I mean, we've talked like Jabari Walker or something like that as a value forward.
Yep.
$7,700. Still gets you Clarkson if you wanted to just double up.
Yeah, and honestly, like having that having that as your roster construction also isn't the worst because the off chance LeBron is ruled out in that late night hammer too, you have pivots galore to wherever you really want to go.
You LeBron and Trey here with the $4,900 like a Gunku maybe. I guess we would switch a Gunku and Walker.
Yeah. I like Jabari Walker as a don't play Jarice Walker. You almost played Jarice Walker.
That would have been a mistake.
That would have been unfortunate.
We did have a question. How many Hawks is too many Hawks? On a slate like this, I think you can play 4.
I think you can max 4. Yep.
I think 4 is the most I would play. But again, you're getting Trey, you're getting LeBron James in your lineups here if you like that spot. Getting Bay, Agonku, Walker, Garland, Bruce Brown. So you are getting some exposure to that game. I do feel like, again, I want to get somebody else in that Pacer side. I don't know.
Do you want to pivot off LeBron and play Halliburton?
Well, I was thinking if you do Turner, I mean, what does that give you?
Because we can go, if you wanted to drop off Turner, we could always play Capella, right? And then play Halliburton. But also the Turner ownership, like we're getting Turner and Halliburton at extremely low ownership. So like that's obviously appealing.
I mean,
but Capella is the I mean,
full stack it. You get Sexton and Walker for a late game, I guess.
Dude, if that game hits, right?
I guess, well, that's what I said on the Better Sports Betting Show today. If it goes over the 252.5,
it's a game stack.
Everybody's hitting over their fan. Everybody's going to hit over their props. Now, I guess the one caveat to that was the other day when the Mavericks and the Bucks went over their 247 total or whatever it was. It was all Giannis and Lillard, and it was all Kyrie and Luka, and really nobody else did anything in that game.
Sure.
But they don't have like that. This game, these teams don't profile that way. I mean, I guess Atlanta could just be DeJounte and Trey doing everything, but like Halliburton and the rest of the team would be the reason that they go over the total. No one else is going to dominate, I don't think, for the Pacers that way, that like a Kyrie, Luka, Dame, Giannis combo do. So, it's kind of some examples for everybody. We'll be in the Discord again, throwing out some lineups. And we can't stress this enough. If you are tuning in here, make sure you're around for lineup block. You got to be around for the latest news so you can know who is in and who's out of lineups here. We'll be certainly giving some updates and advice in the Discord. I know Sean Mitchell will be updating his playbook as well as the news comes out, along with those core plays here coming shortly, if not out already. And we'll be there to help you guys work through the madness that is the NBA DFS roster lock here. James, let's go pivot on over to the rostership, see what we can show some people here. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pulling up tonight's updated rostership here. Again, not much has changed. We're just still not
559.
playing.
Updated a minute ago, so
We're still you and I just still aren't getting to Talon Horton Tucker. Just a personal preference here.
Yeah.
So if we're wrong, we're wrong. But he had a ceiling game surrounded by a whole bunch of nothing. So I'll more likely than not, probability is that he won't have a ceiling game again. So
well, like, and you look at like not of course that's the I mean, Colin Sexton's half ownership again, and the ownership did move a little bit for Sexton there, but I would rather just play a guy who, I mean, Horton Tucker. This dude, narratives sometimes drive the bus for like why people are playing somebody. This feels one, people are chasing the Talon Horton Tucker stuff, and two, it's a narrative that people are into. Like, he used to be a Laker, going back to the Lakers, coming off a big game. Like, I don't buy it. What else do you see? Anything interesting to you? I mean, the market and ownership. The Lakers suddenly, John, look at this. Reddish 19%, D'Angelo 19%, Reeves 18%. What do you make of the Lakers? 5 guys, 4 or 5 guys in the top like 15 in ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Maybe some low run potential with those guys getting some extra minutes. By the way of LeBron or AD sitting some minutes there, right? So if LeBron and AD get rested a little bit, you'll see some more minutes going in there. So Nico wants on FanDuel is fading the high price point guards a death sentence. I kind of feel that way. I like Clarkson as well. But it's a 252 game total. Like you got to get one of those 3 guards in that game. Again, I think you have to play at least Trey or Halliburton. I like DeJounte Murray a lot tonight as well. I don't think you can full fade the guards in a 252 game total. I just don't see that being the correct move here tonight, personally.
Agreed. I fully agree. Just pulling up some Atlanta ownership here, John, just because I wanted to see like what we're looking at in terms of this game.
THT only have 5% on FanDuel. I mean, yeah, definitely positional eligibility. Yeah. That helps him out there because everybody on FanDuel has multi-positions pretty much.
Right.
So,
right.
And I don't know what's the FanDuel price on THT there. I want to swap over to FanDuel there, James.
Yeah. Sure. Let's type Talon. He has $5,500.
Yeah, so he's $1,000 more expensive on FanDuel than DraftKings. So one of the reasons for that. Again, even more of an easy fade over there.
What's our
Karis LeVert remains questionable.
Of course, this has been the consistent report, huh? Like the remains questionable.
We'll know as soon as Roster Lock comes out.
Yep, as soon as Roster Lock comes out.
Bickerstaff though remains questionable.
Okay. In FanDuel ownership, not much. I'll just quickly touch.
I mean, the Bruce Brown thing makes sense, right?
Yeah, like Bruce Brown thing makes sense. The Atlanta ownership, Sadiq Bey didn't really move. I think that's great for us. I mean, he did move a little bit, but he's still lower owned than Jalen Johnson by a lot. He still owned less than DeAndre Hunter. He still owned less than Ngakoue, and the only one really is Murray and Bogdanovic that you're.
Yeah, what's our Halliburton? Is he still 10%?
That is. Let's go to Indiana and check Tyrese Halliburton here. He is projected 10%. Yep. So that moved.
I have to play him at 10%. I think.
I agree. So let's do this. Let's look at the top price guys real quick, and then we can wrap here. Everyone just still getting to LeBron and Trey, right? That just feels where everyone's settling in at the top. No one's playing Embiid. No one's playing Halliburton. Understand why no one's playing the Phoenix guys. I think Halliburton, Embiid, Davis being low owned is very interesting on this slate. Very interesting, just given what their ceilings are. And 10% Tyrese Halliburton at a 250 total, man. He's gone for 70 multiple times. He has 27 actual points in a quarter this year. And he is 10% rostered.
Would you rather play Trey and Ngakoue or DeJounte and Reeves?
Trey and Ngakoue or DeJounte and Reeves? I'd probably rather do the first pairing. But I've made it no secret that I'm not fading Trae Young tonight.
Right,
So,
because it's just more so the ceilings for Reeves versus Agankwu there, right? Like
it just depends on if you think this could be a scenario that Ngakoue plays more minutes than Capella, right?
Sure.
Because we've seen 3 straight games. Capella's been the guy on the better end of the split, where there was like a 6 straight game stretch where 25, 26 minutes to Ngakoue, even though he was coming off the bench. So if you think Ngakoue gets the better end of the split, he is a very good play because he's a fantasy point per minute guy at the end of the day, right? If he plays 25 minutes, you can definitely see Ngakoue get to 30 fantasy points, which I think would also not surprise you to see Austin Reeves at 30 fantasy points or so. So I'll go the Trae side. Not that I think Ngakoue is going to close over Capella, because Capella's been giving us no reason to think that for the last few games, but it is an interesting dynamic that the Hawks have at center right now, because they both should be starting. They just can't both start.
Agreed. All right, guys, that's our look here at 5 games. James and I will be back again tomorrow morning with the preview show for a big Wednesday, and we'll be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time like we are every day here at 5 o'clock to get you guys ready for the main slate. Get in that Discord, though. If you haven't already, you can sign up below, facetime.com/win. Take advantage of our now all-pro annual subscription offer and become an all-pro member. Get access to all of our premium content, including our playbook and that premium Discord access. We're in there. Sean's in there. Grande is in there answering questions, getting everybody ready, giving the latest news and updates to prepare yourselves for this NBA DFS slate. Get us there. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll catch you guys later.